Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving straight into the middle class gap. We're going to talk about out-designing your financial flaws. Because let's be totally honest here, there's likely this super frustrating, totally unexplained gap between your highly responsible financial habits and what's actually sitting in your bank account, right? Well, let's find out exactly why that is.
Now, what's genuinely fascinating about this invisible gap is who it traps. Most middle-class families actually live permanently stuck right here. There's a specific hidden financial line that separates the folks who manage to close the gap from the folks who just don't. And here's the absolute kicker. It has literally nothing to do with your income. None. It doesn't care about your discipline, how insanely hard you work, or how incredibly smart you are. Most people never cross this line simply because nobody ever bothered to show them where it actually is.
So, to really see how this works, let's travel back 15 years and introduce two people, Darius and Sophia. Okay, so they live in the exact same city, they're the exact same age, and they both started out with a respectable salary of $65,000 a year. They both had decent credit scores, and they both did everything right. You know, exactly what society tells us we're supposed to do. Work hard, save a little bit here and there, and don't go totally crazy with your spending.
But let's fast forward and jump to today. We see a massive divergence. Darius has a modest $40,000 net worth. He's got a 401k with maybe 18 grand in it, a car that's almost paid off, some nice furniture. He feels okay about it. Not great, but fine. Sophia, on the other hand, she is sitting at a staggering $480,000 net worth when you combine her investments, retirement accounts, and home equity. I mean, wow.
So, what is the crucial point here? It's that this massive wealth gap was not an accident. It definitely wasn't luck, it wasn't some rich uncle leaving an inheritance, and it absolutely wasn't some hot stock tip she overheard at a dinner party. The difference was the result of a single, highly deliberate decision Sophia made back in her early 30s, all because somebody finally sat her down and explained what that invisible financial line actually was.
To really wrap our heads around that decision, we have to look at Darius first. See, Darius followed the default mental model of money, the one basically all of us grow up with. The rhythm is super simple. Paycheck comes in, paycheck goes out. You earn it, you spend what you absolutely need, you save whatever happens to be left over, and maybe, just maybe, you invest a little if there's somehow enough. And here is the brutal trap. Inside that rhythm, you actually look incredibly successful on the outside. You own a nice home, take the family on vacations, put the kids through school. But this system quietly hides a very hard financial ceiling. And it's a ceiling that usually smacks you right in the face in your late 40s when you look at your retirement projections and realize, yikes, the math just does not add up.
So why do smart, incredibly hardworking people like Darius hit this wall?
Well, the villain here isn't your character. You're not lazy. It's actually a 10,000-year-old evolutionary glitch called present bias. It's literally the exact same reason we order a massive greasy pizza when we have perfectly good, healthy spinach sitting right there in the fridge. Human beings process financial decisions through behavioral patterns that evolved for scarcity, not for modern abundance. So your brain assigns dramatically more value to a reward you can hold today than a reward you might get next year. It weighs them completely unequally every single time, and the tilt is always toward now. That is exactly why the path of least psychological resistance is to spend right now, save later, and invest, well, someday. Now, when we put their two systems side by side, it's like looking at two completely different highways for their money. Darius runs the default route, earn, spend, save. But Sophia? She runs a total structural overhaul. Earn, invest, spend. She basically took that tired, overused cliché of paying yourself first and completely revolutionized it. For her, it didn't mean setting aside $20 from her grocery budget. It meant her income flows directly through investment vehicles before it ever even gets a chance to enter her checking account. It might sound like a tiny procedural tweak, but structurally, it is an absolute game changer. And here's exactly why that shift is so monumental. See, Darius fell headfirst into the lifestyle inflation trap. When you save what's left after spending, you are essentially spending down to zero and just crossing your fingers, hoping something remains at the end of the month. And let's be real, most months, nothing does. Life naturally expands to fill whatever income is available. This ensures that your expenses quietly creep upward with every single raise you ever get. So that gap, it never gets any wider. But Sophia outsmarted this entire trap way back at age 31. She simply set up an automatic transfer of 15% straight into her investments the very moment her paycheck hit. Boom, done. The money went to work before she ever even laid eyes on it. And because of this, she honestly didn't even miss it. Within just a few months, her spending had naturally adjusted to match the 85% that was left over. She effectively built a natural concrete ceiling for her lifestyle inflation. And the absolute best part? Her wealth just kept growing steadily, totally independent of her daily mood or her willpower.
Behavioral economists actually have a fancy name for Sophia's brilliant little trick. They call it a commitment device. Look, crossing that financial line requires a very specific kind of discomfort, watching your hard-earned money go somewhere you can't immediately touch it. Thanks to our old friend present bias, that sacrifice feels painfully immediate, while the reward feels super distant and abstract. A commitment device just completely bypasses this. By automating the transfer, you're literally kicking future you out of the decision-making process. Present you never even gets a vote. The money moves before your brain can even start arguing that, hey, maybe we need a new TV today.
It really all comes down to this one fundamental paradigm shift. Sophia didn't out-discipline Darius, she out-designed him. Using sheer willpower against your own present bias is a losing battle every single time. Darius kept promising himself he'd invest more once things finally settled down. But, spoiler alert, things never settle down. A well-designed system, though, that runs on autopilot. It does all the heavy lifting that human willpower was honestly never designed to do.
Okay, so I know what you're thinking. How do we actually build this into your own life right now? Well, the incredible news here is that setting up Sophia's system is far simpler than most people think. Seriously, you do not need a massive raise, you don't need to go hunt down a new job, and you absolutely positively do not need to cut a $5,000 check to some fancy financial advisor. All it really takes is 3 simple steps. Let's go through the exact playbook to get you across that line, moving from manual, frustrating saving straight into automated wealth building. 1. Decide a percentage. 2. Automate the transfer. 3. Leave it alone. Let's break these down. Step 1 is absolutely crucial. You have to pick a percentage, not just a flat dollar amount. Think about it. If you decide to invest $300 a month and your income shoots up over the years, you're still only investing that same $300. But a percentage, that automatically scales up right along with your income. 15% is a phenomenal target to aim for. But hey, if that feels totally terrifying and impossible right now, that is completely fine. Start at 5%, then just bump it up by 1 tiny percent every 6 months. The starting number matters way less than the actual consistency.
Now for step 2, you have to automate it today. Not think about automating it, not jot it down on a post-it note for next Sunday. No, log into your bank account today and set up that recurring transfer for the day immediately after your paycheck hits. Because here is the harsh, unavoidable reality of human cognition. If that cash just sits there in your checking account while you logically, thoughtfully debate whether or not to invest it, you won't. You just won't. Your brain guarantees it.
And finally, step 3. Leave it alone. Honestly, this is where the psychology gets the absolute hardest. The market is going to go down sometimes, often pretty dramatically. And when it drops, your present bias is going to be screaming at you, telling you that pulling your money out to protect it is the smart move. But the research on personal finance is crystal clear on this. Long-term investors who simply stay seated and ride out the downturns dramatically outperform the folks who try to jump in and out to time the market. Waiting for the right time to jump back in never actually works. Ultimately, staying in always feels scary, but staying in is almost always the correct move.
So bringing this all back to our 2 friends. Darius is not a failure. He is not irresponsible at all. But that mind-blowing $440,000 gap over 15 years, that wasn't about who was smarter or who burned the midnight oil. It was purely the magical compounding effect of Sophia's structural automation. Darius got stuck on the wrong side of the line because he relied on brute force willpower to fight basic human nature. Sophia crossed the line because she made one single structural decision, automated the whole shebang, and let the system do the thinking for her. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this thought. You're here learning about this because, deep down, you suspect your current system isn't really getting you where you actually want to go. And you know what? That suspicion is absolutely worth listening to. The line separating these 2 vastly different financial futures is very real, and you now know exactly where it is. So, here's the big question. Are you going to keep fighting your own psychology using exhaustible willpower, or are you ready to outdesign your flaws starting today? Pick a percentage, automate the transfer, and leave it alone. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.